Welcome back to Our Take. I'm Christina Brown, along with my guest co-host, Kelly Smith-Beatty. And our next guest is a beautiful, beautiful example and proof that anyone truly can beat the odds. She went from being a homeless single mom to mayor. Dr. Evelyn Wynn Dixon joins us from Riverdale, Georgia. That's a city about 15 minutes outside of Atlanta. Getting to the mayoral seat, Dr. Wynn Dixon, I'm sure was anything but easy, and she is here to share her story and hopefully inspire others to do their best while she's at it. But also with us is Gwen Butler. Gwen Butler is a licensed clinical social worker specializing in individual counseling and psychotherapy and life coaching. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Gwen, and thank you, Dr. Wynn Dixon, for joining us today. Dr. Dixon, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you very well. Can you hear me?
I certainly can. Thank you so very much for joining us today. Your path to success, like I said, has been anything but easy. Can you give us a sense of, one, where you were 20, 30 years ago and how you were able to accomplish all that you've accomplished thus far?
Well, it was very, it started out when I was very young and was in college and made an error and had to come home with a baby, and my life turned around. But it all came from the foundation that my mom and dad and grandparents and the church instilled in me about getting up after you make a mistake.
I understand, Dr. Dixon, that you went from being a high school honor student to being a 19-year-old college dropout, having to return home with a baby, and then there was the sudden loss of your mom, so now you were taking care of your child plus siblings, and at one point you were even homeless. Can you just kind of give me a sense of how do you even wrap your mind around, I've got these really tough obstacles ahead of me. How do I get out of this? Where did you go to build yourself up?
First I went on a pity party. You know, here it is. I was this young girl, beautiful figure, long hair, had the world in the front of me, and here it is now. I'm a voluptuously full-figured woman with 4 children. Husband left me. And my baby had a birth defect. Well, I took the coward's way out and tried to commit suicide. But at my lowest moment, that's when God stepped in for me. I had an epiphany and heard my mom's voice in the wind. People think it's a fairy tale, but it's the truth. I heard my mom's voice, and when I heard her voice, she asked me why would I open up my eyes in hell. And she said education was the way. So after I couldn't jump off that bridge when I saw that tractor-trailer truck coming, had a gun, no bullets, threw up the aspirin, so I didn't have a choice but to live. So I went back to the root, that if I make one step, God will make 2. And so that's what happened for me. I grounded myself in knowing that my mom taught us that nobody owes you nothing. Nobody can ride your back unless you bend it. And if you make one step, God will make 2. You just got to be believing and taking no days off. You just got to do it.
Dr. Dixon, your story is just amazing, and it's powerful. And I have to ask Gwen, who we have here in studio, we just heard Dr. Dixon talk about her turning point. I mean, she went from being suicidal, actually going to a bridge, and I'm getting ready to jump off this bridge, to hearing her mother's voice, who had passed. Her turning point was this voice from her mom. Not everyone necessarily has that kind of turning point.
Right.
Where do you begin to pull someone out of their troubles?
I tell you, when someone is going through something like this, you really have to pull from a place of resilience. And for her, for Dr. Dixon, she had a very strong foundation. She had a very strong upbringing. She also had a very strong level of faith. So she was able to pull from strength outside of herself. So when you're really sort of suffocated in something very tragic, you do have to look for some kind of support outside of yourself. I like to call that scaffolding, whatever that is. If it's your faith piece, if it's your friendship piece, if it's your mom, your parent, a mentor, someone that you can pull from, a therapist, where you can really tell your story and be validated and sort of be strengthened in that space. It's really about seeking that space outside of you and then transferring it inside so that you can be inspired internally to then come forth, such as Dr. Dixon. She is truly an inspiration, truly,
But how
truly
is
an
it,
inspiration.
why is it that some people, Gwen, are able to bounce back and others are not?
That resilience factor is really something else. And I tell you, when a client will come into my office, there are two questions that they'll ask. And one is a very existential question. Why is this happening to me? Right? Why is this happening? And the quick answer that I have for that is there's purpose in your pain. There is purpose in your pain. You may not know it now. You will know it. Eventually, you will know. And then the second question is, how do I get out of this? Why is this happening? And how do I get out of this? And very concretely, as Dr. Dixon has done, tell your story to a therapist, to someone who can validate you through it, help you work out the feelings that come out of that. You know, and then number two, that scaffolding, that support system is crucial for someone to be able to come out of something. And then finally, it's really about resisting the urge to regress. And I read somewhere Dr. Dixon, when she did buy her home, she was afraid to go in it. And that really speaks to, you know, when you're going through some kind of tragedy, you really start to believe that you deserve this. You brought it on yourself. So when good does come, you're so afraid to embrace it. You don't even go in it. You don't want to have anything to do with it. And that's the good that's pulling for you.
Yeah.
And so really fighting to resist the urge to regress to that space, you know, it's about support. It's about who you have in your corner, really pushing back the folks who are just pulling you down and really bringing closer the folks who are bringing you up.
And Dr. Dixon, I understand that you've been sharing your story with just about anyone who will listen. You're referred to as the People's Mayor. You answer all your own phone calls and respond to all your emails. And it's my understanding Kelly Smith Beatty, who's actually an Atlanta homegirl, that's where home is. You know, your city is also a very important city when it comes to its relationship to Atlanta, and you've really regenerated Riverdale just by your own personal story.
Well, you know, my thing is, in regards to the doctor, I did ask myself, God, what did I ever do to deserve this? Who did I ever hurt? I repent and forgive me, and I'll do whatever to overcome this. But then I had to learn that sleeping in an apartment, rat-infested apartment, roach-infested apartment on a mattress with 4 babies with a birth defect. And her legs have now since been corrected. It wasn't for me. It's for me to be a motivator and a role model for people who were presently in my position that I was in previously, to let them know that God is able to do anything but fail if you dare to try. And to do that, I just love helping people. I do it, don't take no money. I'll hug the homeless, the veterans, or whoever. And they call me the People's Mayor because I help the homeless, the battered, the domestic abuse people, anything, creating businesses with the council that I work with and the city managers and clerks. I don't do it by myself.
Dr. Dixon,
because
can I
I've been
ask?
so blessed with huge economic growth, balanced budget, surplus, not a huge, but we were working, and God is just so stupendous until I'm afraid not to help people that I may lose what I got.
Dr. Dixon, I'm from Fayetteville, and so I know Riverdale intimately. And I just want to say thank you. I mean, I know the city, and I'm sure seeing you, one of the things we often hear is that there's a disconnect between the politicians and the people, and they don't know our struggles and they don't understand them. Have you found that you've been able to not just connect with the people, but legislate your city in accordance with your own understanding, having gone through that?
Yes. In fact, I have a huge connect with the state capitol. The governor has given me 2 major appointments in the state. They voted me the Woman of the Year for the county. So locally and the cities and stuff, we connect. We even now have a mayor's committee where all the mayors meet together and we make decisions, working with transportation, jobs, and everything. So Yes, and I tell you what's the biggest thing for me is I don't think more of myself than I am. I don't see myself as mayor. I see myself as the mama of the city, and as the country people used to say, I got to go take care of my children. And also to let people know that your zip code don't make you. Your environment don't make you. You make it. So if the man thinketh, so is he. If you think you're an heir of the king, then you can do it. So what if you wore the same dresses and people used to laugh at me, make fun of me? So what if I used to walk 9.5 miles from Georgia State to my apartment? How bad do you want it that you can be a water walker and
Well,
do what you got to do? And all those people who laughed at me had to come back to me for help. So I have to let people know that your children don't have to be, it's not necessary. Your children are the product of their community and a single parent.
Dr. Dixon, Dr. Dixon, Dr.
Uh-huh.
Dixon, I'm so sorry. I absolutely do not mean to wrap you up. Your story is so powerful, so important. I certainly hope that you will come back again on Our Take to share your story. I thank you so very much, Dr. Evelyn Wynn Dixon, joining us today from Riverdale, Georgia, a wonderful example of a woman who has certainly beaten the odds. And thank you, Gwen Butler, for also joining us here live in the studio.
Thank you.
And you are watching Our Take.